My name is Karen Rose, and I'm an author. And I'm asked often how I got started, and did I always want to be an author? Well, I didn't. I was an engineer and a school teacher before I was an author. And as a kid growing up, I loved to read, and I would actually write some short stories, but never in my wildest dreams did I even consider being an author as a career. I didn't know any authors. And after reading Little Women and the fact that Joe lived in a garret and just had, a single candle, I thought authors were poor and probably ate rats or something. I didn't know what they did. I didn't know how books ended up in the library. I knew they were just there. But I started writing when I was about 29, so I wasn't an author all the time, through my whole life, like many of my friends are. I started writing for two reasons. First of all, I started seeing scenes in my head that I had never seen before, and they were making me insane. And they would wake me up at night, and I would see them when I was at work, and I thought, I'm going to get fired if I don't get these scenes out of my head, because I'd kind of go off into La La Land and start thinking about the scenes, and people would be snapping their fingers in front of me to get my attention. So I thought I better get these scenes out of my head. So I sat down one day on vacation, and I thought if I could just write it, it'll go away. And 3 hours later, I had finished that scene. It was on to the next, and it became kind of my guilty pleasure that I would do. I would write at night when I put my children to bed, and it was my hour of quiet time. That's how I would spend it, because all of a sudden I had gotten sucked into this world of my characters. Couldn't wait to see what they do next, and it was an enjoyable hobby. But I started writing more intensely when I started traveling, because I'm afraid to fly. And I would read a lot of books to take my mind off the fact that I was in an airplane. But those days they didn't have e-readers, and there were only so many books I could put in my carry-on luggage, or even my luggage I took with me. And I would quickly run out of things to read and would then punt back to writing my own stories. And it got to the point where all I really wanted to do was write my own stories, and it was a hobby. I didn't start writing, even think about writing as a profession, but until probably about 5 years later. I did it in secret. Nobody knew I was writing except my husband. And he came home one day and said, you've been doing this for a long time. You need to do something with your books. And he brought me a book that was called How to Market Your Novel. And it was in, like 10 easy steps. So I did them all and submitted a lot of chapters and letters to agents and editors, and I was soundly rejected by all of them. But a few of the rejections were positive enough to keep me going. And so I kept writing and did it again, the process again a couple of years later, and was signed by an agent. Sold my first book about a year and a half after that. It came out in July of 2003, and here I am, 12 years later, and I have written 17 books. So what started out as a hobby has become a career that I really love.